Hi, everybody, and welcome to a special election edition of Newsmakers. I'm Jerry Roberts. It is Thursday, October 3rd, 31 days until the election. And I'm delighted to be reconvening our special National Pundits panel to talk about this week's vice presidential debate, as well as what's going on in the presidential race. And I want to welcome my old friend, Carla Marinucci, veteran political analyst and writer from California. Dan Morain, the author of Kamala's Way, the best biography of Kamala Harris that's out there. And Bill Carrick, a veteran political strategist who has run presidential campaigns and, of course, was the longtime key strategist for the late Senator Dianne Feinstein. Thanks, everybody, for coming in. I want to talk about the vice presidential race, but before we do, I want to just go around and get your sense of where you think the race is. Real Clear Politics has Harris 2.2% ahead this morning nationally, slightly ahead in Michigan, Wisconsin, tied in Pennsylvania, and Trump ahead in the other three toss-up states. And I don't see, and of course we wouldn't being out here in California, but I just don't get a sense of urgency out of the Harris campaign. And I get this terrible sense, Carla, like I'm watching Mike Shanahan coach in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl and with a lead, and that she has one. What's your sense of where things stand?
I kind of disagree with you, Jerry, on the sense of urgency from the Harris campaign. I think I see on the ground, and I say this because I know many Californians who are going to some of these swing states, and the outreach to younger voters, to Latino voters, to young Black men. I mean, Kamala Harris just did a hour-long podcast with I think it's called In the Smoke, the a podcast that's very, very popular with young Black men. They're hitting sort of micro markets, it seems, looking at areas that they really need to do work on and getting out there, and they have huge outreach. I mean, it seems like the national polls are trending in her direction, and a lot of the swing states are cautiously trending in her direction. And when you combine that with some of the crazy stuff that Trump has been saying in the last couple of days on the stump, and you've got the legal issues coming up, and some of the disaster stuff. I mean, there was a story today from Politico and E&E News that talked about how Trump didn't want to put California on for wildfire disaster relief because the state was too democratic. I mean, some of the news, a lot of the headlines are trending in her direction, and I think it is still down to the wire, and but it seems to me that the Harris team has a lot more going on the ground than the Trump team. That's just from yeah.
All right, glad to hear it. Dan, I think your book adequately shows, Harris is a very cautious politician. And do you get the sense that she's avoiding the media, or do you think she's probably just ducking in and doing more local stuff that we're not seeing? It seems like, she and Walz really haven't done much national media. What's your sense?
No, they haven't, but Harris is doing 60 Minutes this Sunday, so that's still the number one show. Even better than Hannity. So I do think that I mean, she doesn't like doing press interviews. She just doesn't. She doesn't like doing press conferences. And if she wins, I think the Washington press corps is going to be concerned and upset, and that she's not engaging with them. But this is the age of TikTok and X, and she's talking directly to and podcasts and influencers. Oh my God, influencers.
She's got an open invitation to come on.
You're one of them.
She got an open invitation.
There you go. There you go. Well, it's between her and RFK Jr. in Santa Barbara. But I look at Open Secrets, uh, their count of the amount of money that she has raised, hard money she has raised to Trump. She's at $685 million, $685 million to Trump's 306 million. Better than 2 to 1. I mean, she can do a lot. She can be everywhere with that money. She can be in places where he would assume that Florida is in his bag, but she's got enough money to play there. She's got enough money certainly to play significantly in all 7 swing states. So that's a big deal. Now he's doing perfectly fine on outside money. His big donors are coming through, but the hard money it really matters. Carrick knows much more about that than I do.
Well, he knows much more about all of this than
All
but
of it, everything.
that's not going to stop us from having strong opinions. Bill, you're the only one that's actually run a campaign. It's the last 4 weeks. I mean, usually you see the candidate, running around like crazy and everything, and ads all over the air. What's your sense of where things stand, particularly in those toss-up states?
I think that's really the wacky thing about this is we're sitting here in California, and she's going to get 2/3 of the vote, and so we don't really get a feel for the sort of competitive nature of the race. But you start looking at these polls, there's some of these polls in odd places are moving. I said right before we went on the air, Winthrop University did a poll they released yesterday, has her moving from 15 back in South Carolina to 10 back.
In South Carolina.
Yeah, in South Carolina. And of course, on the reality of that is the one side is Georgia and one side is North Carolina. And they're buying a bunch of TV in Georgia and North Carolina, which is going into South Carolina. So we got all kinds of odd things going on here. And here's the mystery question. Trump doesn't campaign much. What is he doing? I mean, he has these outbursts. He goes and does a rally or 2 a week. He's just not doing much.
No, they got Vance out there doing 72 events a day, it looks like. And he's good.
72 events, and he has 75 of mistakes during the day too. I don't know that he's doing them much good. I mean, his numbers are so bad. Favorable and unfavorable numbers are so bad. I don't see how he does any good.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Vance in the vice presidential debate. Because there was a fair amount of commentary, and more people watched it than I would have thought. I thought it would be the 4 of us and their families, but apparently there's like 47 million people or something. But Carla, the first rule of vice presidential debates is do no harm, and I think they both did that. Did either of them, do you think, help their ticket to help the presidential nominee?
This is a case where I actually think we in the media pundits and all those commentators may have gotten it a little bit wrong. I mean, I think it is true that Vance was a better debater, showed himself really well, and gave himself a boost, I think,
It looked like 2028.
Yeah, as a future candidate. There's no question he made himself kinder, gentler, and did very well in the debate. But I do think if you look at, and the numbers showed just about everybody thought it was split in terms of who won the debate. But in terms of who was seen more favorably, who was more likable, those polls gave it to Walz. And I think this is sort of where the long-term effects may be. I don't know, but I think he came off as a more likable, more relatable guy. Vance was very slick, didn't answer the questions a lot of times, but was able to deliver and was talking to an audience of one, Donald Trump. And I think Tim Alberta put it really well. He did so well. It was like pitching a no-hitter for most of the game until the final inning, where he gave up a grand slam on that question of did Donald Trump win the election?
Right.
That was the headline. And
And they
that,
they immediately made an ad out of it. It's all over TikTok.
yeah, that is the final sort of line or theme out of that debate. And I think that will continue to hurt Trump. So that's how I saw it. I think media people said Vance won it on style, but I think on the final impact, it may be Walz.
Yeah, Dan, Carla points out, it was kinder, gentler, JD Vance, and then you had Walz sort of, agreeing with him, saying, oh, I think JD is, wants to solve problems. I mean, he was anything but an attack dog. Do you think that there's an issue, though, that his performance and the way Walz, kind of buddied up to him is sort of normalizing MAGA in order, kind of, letting it seem like, it's not really that threatening. What was your takeaway on the debate?
Well, my takeaway on the debate was Christ have mercy. Ted Lasso versus Eddie Haskell. It was, was it normalizing it? I don't know. Vance was very slick. Clearly, this is a Yale guy. This is a lawyer. This is somebody who is very practiced, very skilled. And the word that came to my mind was unctuous, right? I mean, it's just a little oily and
I
a little
used that word.
too slick. And his answer about how Trump saved Obamacare. I mean, give me a break. Trump tried to kill it multiple times. Tried to kill
times.
it. Yeah. And so so I do think that the initial reaction, my initial reaction was well, Walz didn't do very well. He certainly stumbled over a bunch of his answers. I mean, he's not a good debater. The Harris campaign put it out at the beginning that of the debate that he had said he wasn't a good debater. He proved that.
He went under expectations.
Right. We they both sort of met the medium low bar. And you and Carla are right. It's about 2028 for Vance.
Yeah. Hey, Bill, as well as anyone that the pictures are, 92 times more important than the words, despite, the way that we sort of worry about the, semicolon in paragraph 19. I mean, if you looked at the screen, though, Vance kind of looked like a president, and Walz looked like the guy who showed up to fix the furnace. Particularly on the split screen.
Hey, Jerry, let me ask you a historical trivia question. Who looked more like a president, Lloyd Benson or Danny Quayle? I mean,
okay.
We go through these VP debates. The most powerful knockout blow in the history of any debate, president or vice president, was Lloyd Benson and Danny Quayle. What happened in the election? I mean, it's just not. I don't really know how significant it is. I thought they were both okay. I didn't think either one of them was very good. And I do think that you have the people who watch the debate and reach their conclusions from watching the whole debate. Then you got the people who are going to see the sound bites. Walz won the sound bites. I mean, he's got choice. Don't leave that out. There was a whole
he was really
about
good.
Choice in there that went on for quite a while.
Yeah, that was good.
Of course, his ridiculous tap dancing on Trump and whether the election was really stolen or not. That was painful to watch for a Democrat. He just wasn't going to answer the question because he's scared of Trump. So I think people are going to take away different things, and whether people digested the whole thing or they're going to just take away these meaningful segments. Oh, we don't really know the answer to that, but the post-debate polling shows it was pretty much, they didn't really have any negative feelings about the governor. They didn't. Walsh didn't. He didn't hit anybody with. They didn't say, "Oh, he's horrible."
Yeah.
Well,
there was no movement in the polling.
Useful.
What'd you say, Dan?
Well, he clearly misspoke when he said he'd become friends with, mass shooters.
School shooters, yeah.
that was really unfortunate.
And he didn't seem to know when he was in Tiananmen Square either.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, there's
I'm curious, your thoughts on, I mean, are voters going to care about that? I mean, that was the Fox News headline, by the way.
My head exploded. They didn't ask a question about Ukraine, but they asked about
cats. Or cats.
Childless cat ladies.
Or cat ladies either.
Or immigrants eating pets. I mean, but
So Bill, why is that? Why it must have been strategy. I mean, Waltz must have decided heading in that he wasn't going to ask about eating pets and dogs and cats and geese and everything else, right? I mean, he was going to leave the critters alone.
I think one of the upsides of the debate, and it's something maybe that was his strategy, was to just make this an actual conversation about issues and not a punching fest. But those were two issues that Waltz got away free.
But let me just interject here that they probably thought. I can see the over strategy working, which is like, let's don't bring that up because it'll just lead to a big debate, big back and forth about immigration.
Which is,
we'll keep that in abeyance because we're just not going to we don't want to go there.
We don't want to be talking about immigration.
We don't want to spend 20 minutes talking about immigration.
But you don't want to talk about cats and dogs and pets.
Yeah, but the childless cat ladies, I mean, and all his comments about childless people are, that was why didn't they bring that up?
I mean, it's interesting because Walz got on the ticket because he was out there on cable and he's the one who, started calling him weird. I mean, that was that's
right. Yeah.
That's how he, but I have to say, and when I looked at the post-debate polling, the most interesting number was the last line in the CNN story, and it said, and then we asked how many, what percentage of people had their minds changed on the vote? 1%. So, I mean, 1%'s a lot in this race, but it's not much.
Well, which way is the 1% going?
Yeah, who knows? But what about this tone thing? Because that was the other thing that showed up in the Insta polls. People really liked the tone. I mean, we love conflict, and that's what we're looking for, and that's probably why we thought it was an awful debate. But people seem to actually like it. They discussed stuff in a positive way.
Yeah, I mean, at one point, Vance was, I'm so sorry your 17-year-old saw.
Oh, yeah, Christ have mercy.
God, I forget what he said. God forbid, or I mean, he actually prayed with him. I mean, it was like, I think, voters appreciated that there was a real discussion, and maybe we've gotten so used to the caustic tone of Trump in all these meetings that this was just refreshing to people. And I don't know what do you all think? I just think
I think exactly that. I think that people probably are just they're just tired of Trump. They're tired of the antics of Trump. They got they bored with the soap opera about Joe Biden's health, all of that stuff. And here comes these two nice guys, and they have this really nice debate, and they don't talk about much. And we really liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what happened.
Do you think, because at least in MAGA world and on Fox, Vance got these rave reviews, and then you sort of saw Trump, was on Truth Social throughout the whole thing, and all of a sudden he's posting about Pete Rose. Do you do you do you think that Trump's gonna say, wait a minute, I'm the main act here, and maybe that would push him to have another debate? Do you think we've seen the end of debates, or
He's not going to do another debate.
you don't think he'll do another one?
No.
I don't know.
He doesn't like the debates because he doesn't have control of what's going on, and it freaks him out, and he's not going to do one.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm wondering if he doesn't want Vance to have kind of the final big positive reviews here. He got such rave reviews, the kind that Trump didn't get. He's got such an ego. I don't know if he might just take the bait in the end.
You just don't understand. It's rigged. Don't you get it? You're thinking like yourself. Think like him. He thinks it's all rigged.
You're right. You
Yeah.
got a point.
Yeah. Hey, Dan, so by my count, Kamala Harris has run 6 races in her life and never lost.
Well, there was the 2019
Yeah,
run.
she got out before there was any votes cast, but
Yeah, she would have lost, but yeah.
yeah, she definitely would have lost. But I mean, is she tend toward overconfidence? Do you think?
Oh no.
Quite the
I
opposite.
think I think she is running scared. I think she's running like she's 2 points behind. And you gotta look at I don't know Jen O'Malley Dillon, but but Pluff, I mean, that
Bluff,
guy that guy
general.
is relentless and disciplined, and I mean, show me one misstep in this campaign, right? I mean, I just haven't seen it. And I think she's everywhere. I mean, I think she's everywhere and will be everywhere between now and November 5th. Waltz's line about you can, sleep when you're dead. They'll sleep on November 6th, maybe, although they'll be up all night worrying about the results out of Pennsylvania and Michigan and Wisconsin, because we're not going to know on November 5th. I can't imagine we will, but anyway.
Yeah.
No, I think she's running scared, which is how she should be running, and I'm surprised Trump isn't running more scared. Notion, it's almost like he's resigned. He's talked about how he's not going to run again in 2028 should he lose. Well, why is he even thinking about losing? Right? I mean,
well, I want to talk about that in a minute, because I think this is just like the first half as far as he's concerned, and it's all going to happen after November 5th. But I want to ask Bill. We talked last time about exogenous events, mostly because I wanted a chance to use that word. But
it's a great word, Jerry.
Thank you very much. But our friends at the New York Times, who seem to have a Trump mole on the news desk, but they have this piece today about how the combination of the widening war in the Mideast and the East Coast dock strike and the terrible storms, particularly in Georgia and North Carolina, present a challenge to Harris. Apparently, they don't present a challenge to Trump, but that's okay. I mean, is that a problem? I mean, does that sort of make her more the incumbent when she's really done a good job of sort of being the candidate of change here? How do you handle that?
Well, first of all, we're back to an earlier discussion. I mean, this is about a fixed number of states. This isn't about a big national campaign.
Right.
So, what did she do yesterday? Well, it's all on the Google the Augusta Chronicle, and you can see all these very flattering pictures of this person at work with the local folks trying to figure out what to do about the hurricane damage. I don't see how that is negative. I don't see how that's
So
negative.
she's there in her official role as vice president.
Yeah, she's there is an official role, and she's in, and it just accidentally happens to be a key media market in one of the states that's competitive. So, and I actually think the president had a pretty good day yesterday too with his trip to the Carolinas, and he had Lindsey Graham and the governor of South Carolina and all these people with him.
Yeah. A tearful Lindsey Graham.
And they're telling, and all of them saying, "Oh no, he called me. We had a great conversation. The president made a commitment. He's going to do X, Y, and Z." I mean, we're going to do a tour of all the Republican governors who talked to Biden, which will probably be more than they've ever talked to Trump.
Yeah, yeah. Of course,
Well,
Dan,
do you think maybe Senator Graham is deciding to shapeshift back toward Democrats? Is he washing his hands of Trump now?
No, he's gonna be total Lindsey crazy person from now to the end, but he's not gonna blow the meeting with the president when he's got his hand out.
I
So-
think
Go ahead,
Jerry, your point is on like how are these events going to impact? And I think there is danger because on the dock strike, I'm already seeing some stories about how in the East Coast, there's kind of panic buying starting to go on at like Costco. People are going back and freaking out about buying toilet paper and things like that. If that spreads, I mean, that could be a problem. The other issue is Israel, which in Michigan, where there's a large, Palestinian and Arab population, I've heard those interviews about like, I cannot vote.
and there was a
Yeah.
person from Dearborn killed in the strike in Lebanon, in the strikes in Lebanon too.
Yeah. So those, I mean, considering how what the margins are in this election, all of this stuff can end up, impacting. I guess we have to see. And of course, Trump is trying to play all of those margins in his favor. So, we'll see how this works out. But this is like so close on so many fronts that it's a scary election to watch.
And if anybody's concerned about
Raise your hand if you think Trump's not going to screw up handling those issues in the next 30 days.
Bill, when you looked at those pictures of Kamala in Georgia, was she throwing paper towels at people, or the way that famous thing that Trump?
She was in the front of the room with every local official in the world around her, and all of them talking about how helpful she's being.
But the White House also put out a photograph of her in the Situation Room, sitting next to Joe Biden. Dan, does that help or hurt? It ties her back to Biden, but it's also
No, it shows she's in a position of power. I mean, it's a big deal, I thought. It's also a big deal that
I don't think that's kind of like, okay, so she's with the president. Well, who the hell is surprised about that?
right. Yeah.
she's certainly trying to present like she doesn't know him.
She's not.
Yeah.
But it's important, which is right now.
I actually think both Kamala and the president have handled all that very well.
And her meeting with Zelensky last week, was it last week? I don't know, time flies.
Yeah, it was.
Pictured with him and she's showing that she's that she can do it. I note that she and Liz Cheney are going to be campaigning together in
Isn't
Wisconsin.
that something?
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine? Can you imagine 4 years ago something like that happening?
Bill, don't you think that they should just do an ad with Dick Cheney and Bernie Sanders? I mean, and if they could get Taylor Swift in there too, that would be, have her pop up at the end.
And they could announce they're opening an ice cream company together.
But This is what goes to Dan's point, which is
Picking Bernie's. They're picking Bernie's. I like it.
Yeah.
this goes to Dan's point, which is she's not making many missteps. And the fact is, I mean, she is covering all the bases in a very sort of granular way, whether it, the Republicans who are sitting on the sidelines, or the Taylor Swift people, or, the African-American sports guys out there on the podcast. I don't know. I just think Fluff and her team has is a wide view of what they need to do, and compared to Trump, as Bill said, whose rallies are small and really looking kind of anemic compared to the kind of rallies.
Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, that. Yeah.
I don't know. It was a low joke, but
All right. I'm gonna channel the Beltway reporters right now. But she's not going to the Al Smith dinner.
Oh, please. Oh, please.
I have to say that now this is what's sort of pissing me off about watching this whole thing, because the way they're covering this in some respects, it reminds me so much of but her emails, I mean, where's all her policy? Hello, she put out an 80-page economic plan. What do we have from Trump on that? Nothing,
Harris.
on health.
It was a smart move not to go to Al Smith dinner, because then you don't have the cardinal beating you up about choice.
Right.
In front of a bunch of prominent Catholics. It's just not. That's a bad event for Democrat now. And until the church recognizes that they're running people off, they're going to have a lot of people not show up at that dinner.
So you don't think it makes
It is such a Beltway thing. Like
It's
who?
terrible.
Tell me
It's
what.
worse than a Beltway. It's a New York insider.
Yeah, like tell me how many Californians have been to the Al Smith dinner, even know what it is, right?
But
I've been.
Peggy Noonan is upset.
I went with Senator Kennedy one time, and we were walking out the door, and he said, "God, that was an ordeal."
And that was back when I mean, and he was the world's they all went to church. So I'm sure that the Archbishop didn't have anything bad to say to Kennedy about anything at that point. All right, let's see what else we got. Any other thoughts about Harris going into the last 4 weeks? Carla, what she should or shouldn't be doing, what she's doing. Oh, I know what I wanted to say. I heard Jim Messina on a podcast yesterday. The strategist, former Obama guy, among others. And I don't quite understand what his business is, but he says they run 60,000 simulations of the election every day, about all the states. And he said that the average is Harris 51.7, Trump 48.3. So
Well, that's been pretty consistent. They do what they do is a computer simulation, and they have a hypothesis that they run all these various scenarios by, and it's been pretty consistent, all of that. Jim may not be the best architect of it, but people who really know what they're doing say that.
Yeah, I have a feeling Jim's just the front man for that. But all right, last question. So we've already seen, the one thing we know about this election, the one thing it's certain is whether he wins or loses, Trump's going to say he won. So we are going to, and Carla, you were a pioneer in the post-election. Nobody's going to concede when we sent you down to Florida for 6 weeks in
That's right. I forgot.
After 2000. But I mean, you see all these stories. They've already filed 100 lawsuits. Heritage Foundation already says the election is illegitimate. So we know we're in for this rough period afterwards. And it seems to me that when you cut it all the way, what they're trying to do is get the election into the House of Representatives, where obviously the Republicans have more state delegations than the Democrats, and they'll declare that Trump won. What do you foresee on that? I mean, how big would Harris have to win, do you think, Carla, to kind of make all
I
that
mean,
stuff go away? Or I mean, it's going to be a big deal again.
right, and there is concern that that Trump underpolls. So yeah, she needs that extra margin. This is where I think the whole issue of January 6th and the legal issues that Jack Smith has brought forward that are now out again in the headlines could have more of an effect on those undecided voters, however many there are left. I mean, than we think. This January 6th issue has now become sort of a front and center again. And maybe, as Bill said, people are getting exhausted with this whole thing. And her theme about let's turn the page, let's not go back, let's go forward. That may resonate with people. I think she's gonna pound that heavily, and they think that's why, as Dan said, she's not going to let her foot up on the gas at this point. She's campaigning 24/7 at this point, and compared to Trump, I mean, she's going to need to do everything she can to keep that difference. I think we could have an October surprise still. There's some headlines today about Doug Emhoff. I don't know if you've seen those.
Slapping an old girlfriend around.
But
Very
from
nice
the Daily Mail, I mean,
Harmeet Dillon is very upset about this.
I mean,
Dan, right.
But you're going to see all kinds of stuff, surface in the last few weeks, and it's going to get even uglier. And who knows how that.
Both teams are going to drop every ounce of oppo they have on the other side.
Yeah.
Well, there's not much more to drop on Trump, I wouldn't think. Although I do think
I wouldn't go.
Yeah, what about the Epstein?
Dan.
What about the Jeffrey Epstein files?
And Diddy. And Diddy, we haven't even gone there.
Well, and I was going to say Melania Trump saying that she's, for abortion rights now.
Yeah.
That's something.
In her book, I wonder if he knew about it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
I love the fact
I am wondering about the Doug Emhoff thing. Like, this happened before they were married, before they knew one another. If it happened, we don't know that. I mean, this is one of those where you really have to piece it all together to find out what happened. Bill, what
should he address it? Should he address it, or just let it go?
I wonder. I don't know.
It may be something that people just don't pay attention to.
Yeah,
it does sound like it's ancient history.
Yeah.
Even if it's true, how the hell do we know if it's even true?
If the Times picks it up. All right, Dan. So we got one candidate who believes in the peaceful transfer of power. The other one tried to mount a coup, and is now trying to stay out.
I suppose that's a contrast, isn't it, Jerry?
It's a contrast for sure. But I mean, what about all this legal stuff? I mean, they seem much better organized than they were the last time when they had
the Trump people.
Yeah.
The Republicans.
You've actually covered federal courts and stuff, and I don't know.
Yeah, if it gets before Aileen Cannon, maybe he's got a shot. I don't know. I mean, Mark Elias is a
Democratic election lawyer,
Democratic attorney. He was Kamala Harris's attorney in her ill-fated run in 2019 for the president. So, so he comes. He obviously knows what he's doing. They're going to fight. To me, it's the irony, right? I mean, I remember a Republican Party that used to think that lawsuits were awful, but now it's like it's what you do.
Tort reform.
Tort reform.
Tort reform.
Yeah. yeah.
Well,
Well,
I just want to mention that Trump never was one of those anti-lawsuit people.
No, he
no,
was,
that's
He
true.
fought more lawsuits than anybody in the
Yeah.
history of the country.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
paid fewer legal bills than a certain
Yeah.
former publisher. And
yeah. I think it's I think it's uh I mean, I wonder how this is going to come down to the House races. I mean, we have, 10 swing states in California. Um, uh, you know, Harris is going to pull votes from California that I don't think any any Democratic presidential candidate has. I think that this could, this could hurt Garcia,
Mhm.
and this could hurt. Well, I don't know about Valadeo, who always seems to
I think
eke
both
it
of,
out.
I think both Garcia and Valadeo though are underwater at this point in the polls.
yeah,
So
they are.
yeah, I mean,
And they're both in plus Democratic seats
You
too.
know,
Right.
as we know the Garcia thing, we had problematic
25th congressional
we had
district.
problematic candidates to run against him before. This
Right,
guy
right.
has no problems. I
Yeah,
mean,
and
he's
and
got a great
Duarte versus
story, and he's
versus
doing really
Gray.
well.
Yeah.
What about Ken Calvert in Palm Springs?
Yeah, I
he's
mean,
on the edge too.
these are issues that are I mean, this is the sort of thing that could swing the House. And I do wonder whether Harris is going to at some point come out to California and stump for these guys.
Yeah,
Well,
'cause that's the firewall.
California and New York are ironically the principal battlegrounds for control of the House.
Yeah. All right,
And
Bill, I want to,
even the Senate, I think, some of those races are looking, Allred versus Ted Cruz. I mean, it's looking a lot closer. Certainly in Nevada, they've got it down, and some of these other races could go Democratic.
Arizona and Nevada look really good.
yeah,
Right.
Senate side, Montana doesn't look so good.
West Virginia's gone.
But yeah, West Virginia's bye-bye. I think we'll win in Pennsylvania at the end of the day. The Senate seat.
Yeah, yeah. All right, Bill, last word to you. Two questions. 4 weeks to go, and you're the lead strategist on two campaigns. A, what do you tell Steve Garvey at this point running against Adam Schiff? And B, in more seriously, what would you tell the Kamala Harris, if they call us up, Bill, what do you think we ought to be doing for the next 4 weeks?
Oh, I think you got to just focus, drill down on all these battleground states and just work them to death. She's pretty good campaigner. I think and she's doing a lot of stuff where she's being seen with people and, all kinds of folks. I think she just got to work it hard. That's the biggest thing. He's not going to work hard, and that's a big advantage for her. And the campaign itself has got to be on top of the numbers relentlessly, because as we talked about, some of these states are now starting to look promising.
Yeah.
Texas is it's hard to even imagine, but the Texas Senate race is close. If the Texas Senate race is close, the presidential will end up being reasonably close. Florida, we don't. Maybe not. We've all had, every Democrat said they're
Heard that one before,
by
yeah.
Florida.
Yeah, but there's how many Haitian voters, Haitian Americans in Florida? Some of I'm wondering how this could
Yeah,
all.
no, that's a really big deal. And of course, they have registered in big numbers Haitian voters, particularly in Central Florida. Yeah, and North Carolina, that governor's race is just like poison for the Republicans.
Yeah.
It's just killing them.
And Dan, have you been on Nude Africa this morning or
Jerry, I'm just not going to talk about that. I mean, it's so bizarre. And what really is bizarre is this guy is lieutenant governor, so he is
Mark
a
Robinson?
heartbeat away from being governor of of North Carolina. And, I just have to think that if the lieutenant governor of California, had done like a 100th of the stuff that this guy has done, I mean, the Democrats would be demanding that, she or he resign. I mean, it's just crazy that the Republican Party is going with this guy. I mean, what is up with this?
There's such an asymmetry. It's like,
it's like nothing matters.
Democrats get rid of their people that are problematic, and the Republicans double down on them.
Yeah, Al Franken.
Well,
Al Franken.
But one of the crazy things is who wrote that law in North Carolina where they're stuck with him. They can't get. He can't. He's not. There's no way to get rid of him unless he takes himself off.
Yeah, he can't get him off the ballot. You mean? Yeah. I know.
Get him off the ballot, which is insane.
Yeah. One of the things I noticed, I was reading my ballot pamphlet last night, and there's no endorsement of Garvey by the Republican Party. Can that possibly be true?
Yeah, what has been going on? What happened with that whole thing? Was it just like a lost leader for his businesses selling vitamins or whatever it is he does online? It's the strangest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are all kinds of strange things going on. And of course, the ballot measures are a big mess too. Nobody's going to know what any of them are because nobody really has enough money to tell anybody what they are.
No, Proposition 33 and then 34 is an attack on 33, and it's like, what?
Yeah, it's just awful.
Yeah.
Reading your ballot pamphlet is really distressing.
They'll all lose. I mean, what?
And we have a DA's race here. It was supposed to be a hot deal. It doesn't even look like it's competitive now.
Gascon is going to lose.
I think he's going to lose big.
Yeah.
And then there's the DA's race up in race in Alameda County. I mean, she's got a problem. There are some. California's a pretty liberal group as a whole, but we don't like crime.
Yeah.
And and
except
I
for
think
San Francisco.
And of course, the Republican Party doesn't have a candidate of its own. Nathan Hochman is a former Republican who was a former Democrat who's running, and he's endorsed Kamala Harris for president of the United States.
Yeah, right.
Put him in that
that's what the Republican Party is. A bunch of the only people that can be competitive are one that are running for the exits.
Yeah.
Probably he just I don't even know why he ran now. He did
Gascon, you mean?
Huh?
Gascon, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we've already seen the first governor's debate for California for the next year. So I don't know where the Republicans are.
Was that a protest about the boredom of this campaign in California?
So Carla, were you on there with Baraback and 3 other people, or?
But what Republicans may come forward? Who at this point, after what's going to happen at Garvey, it's going to be kind of interesting.
Yeah.
This morning, the yapping on the local stuff was about Katie Porter being ahead.
Oh yeah, right. Katie Porter said, well, she's way ahead in the polls. Compared to anybody else in that race.
She's got, because she ran for senator, names out there.
Right. But still, I mean, she put out a statement that suggests she's thinking about it.
Oh man, she has no Sacramento experience. That's just the kind of guy Morain used to.
We're gonna have a radical turn to reality now. I don't know, Jerry.
Well, I think if the Dodgers had put up Shohei Ohtani instead of Steve Garvey, they'd have that Senate seat along with every other ball player in America. All right, we got to get out of here. Bill Carrick, Carla Marinucci, Dan Morain, thanks so much. Dan's book is called Kamala's Way. It's the one and only best biography of the person who may or may not be the next president of the United States. But
she's no Dianne Feinstein.
Newsmakers panel of national pundits is bullish on the Harris chances. So we'll get you back maybe 2 weeks from now, and we'll have another run at it and see where things stand. Thank you so much, everybody, for
Oh, always
coming.
good to be with you, Jerry.
Take
Thanks.
care.
Thanks.
Okay.
Bye.